What's up, guys? It's Gunnar. Welcome to my Econ Talk Demand for Resources. Today, we are more specifically going to be talking about labor demand. Um, Today, the article that I'm going to be using comes from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. This article explains that the U.S. market has been slowing down during 2025 and early 2026. Many industries that we've seen suffer from this slowing is the manufacturing industry, construction, hospitality, and a few others. All of these are hiring fewer workers because the economic growth and consumer spending has slowed. One of the key things one of the key things that's important for understanding this article is it brings up the term non-farm payroll. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, non-farm payroll is a key economic indicator representing the total number of U.S. workers in good-producing construction and manufacturing companies. It accounts for roughly 80% of the workers who contribute to the gross domestic product of the United States. The U.S. GDP is a indicator of how much, I guess, like wealth would be a good term, but how much goods we are producing and the value of everything. Um, this article explains hiring growth has slowed in many parts of the economy, especially in these goods producing industries, because there are fewer demand for them. So we see here in the first half of 2023, everything is very high. And as we move along into the first half of 2025, the adjusted labor force and the non-farm payroll employment or job growth have all decreased, with the only month of non-farm payroll being higher than adjusted labor force being in the second half of 2024. Also in this article, it talks about the three super sectors. The three super sectors include service providing, goods producing, and the government. Right now, most job growth is happening in the service providing sector, especially healthcare, while many goods producing industries are slowing down their hiring. As we see here, the service providing being the greatest portion of this bar chart as we go on again through the first half of 2023 all the way down to the second half or first half of 2025. Goods producing goes from in the positives down into the negatives. Government takes up almost zero, and service providing still takes up the majority of the positive average monthly payroll. In economics, labor is considered a resource. Businesses are only going to hire the amount of workers that they believe they need and will help increase their production of profits. If companies expect weaker sales, they reduce their demand for labor. A real world example is my job here at BYU Hawaii, working for the Seasider Sports. We have a specific amount of referees that is required for operations to go smoothly. If we had more referees, we wouldn't necessarily be able to ref more games, and it would increase the amount of people who are on payroll and not doing anything. And if we had less workers, then we wouldn't be able to ref the same amount of games. So the amount of refs that is required for the job and meeting that required or sweet spot, I guess it's not required, but meeting that sweet spot of employees helps increase the production and productivity of the games that we are allowed to or able to ref. Another important economic idea that is connected in this article is the marginal revenue product. We kind of talked about it small, but businesses are only going to hire when the additional revenue generated by that worker is greater than the cost of hiring them. If companies believe an extra worker will not generate enough profit, they stop hiring or even fire people. A great example of that we see a great example of this is seasonal workers. Um, so again, when I used to work on the golf course back in Idaho during the fall and winter months, they would lay people off because there's less work to be done and to keep us on payroll and have us work while golfers aren't golfing would put them in the negatives of their profit. Overall, this article um, is a strong real world example of how businesses change their demand for resources based on the economic conditions, consumer demands, and expected profitability. Um, if you guys would go on and vote for me, that'd be much appreciated. And